Japanese submarine slammed two torpedoes into our side, Chief. It was coming back from the island of Tinian to Leyte. Just delivered the bomb. The Hiroshima bomb. 1,100 men went into the water. Vessel went down in 12 minutes. Didn't see the first shark for about a half an hour. Tiger, 13-footer. You know how you know that when you're in the water, Chief? You tell by looking from the dorsal to the tail. What we didn't know was our bomb mission had been so secret, no distress signal had been sent. They didn't even list us overdue for a week. Very first light, Chief, the sharks come cruising. So we formed ourselves into tiny groups. You know, it's kind of like old squares in battle, like you see on a calendar, like the Battle of Waterloo. And the idea was, the shark comes to the nearest man, and that man, he'd start pounding and hollering and screaming. And sometimes the shark would go away. Sometimes he wouldn't go away. Sometimes that shark, he looks right into you. Right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark? He's got lifeless eyes. Black eyes, like a doll's eye. When he comes at you, doesn't seem to be living until he bites you, and those black eyes roll over white. And then you hear that terrible, high-pitched screaming, and the ocean turns red. In spite of all the pounding and the hollering, they all come in and rip you to pieces. You know, by the end of that first dawn, lost 100 men. I don't know how many sharks, maybe 1,000. I don't know how many men, they average 6 an hour. On Thursday morning, Chief, I bumped into a friend of mine, Herbie Robinson from Cleveland, baseball player, bosun's mate. I thought he was asleep, reached over to wake him up, bobbed up and down in the water, just like a kind of top, upended. Well, he'd been bitten in half below the waist. Noon the 5th day, Mr. Hooper, a Lockheed Venturasaurus. He swung it low, and he saw us. He's a young pilot, a lot younger than Mr. Hooper. Anyway, he saw us and coming low. 3 hours later, a big fat PBY comes down and starts to pick us up. You know, that was the time I was most frightened, waiting for my turn. I'll never put on a life jacket again. So 1,100 men went in the water. 316 men come out. The sharks took the rest. June the 29th, 1945. Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
Yeah!
Anyway, this is the second night of our residency. Tonight we are doing pieces that I have chosen, that Mike doesn't know what I'm going to read, and I don't know what he's going to play, which is why he's starting. So this is all a risk here, because he's going to start playing something, and I'm going to pick the next piece. At that time, I was enjoying such a living faith, such a clear faith, that the thought of heaven made up all my happiness. And I was unable to believe that there were really impious people who had no faith. I believed they were actually speaking against their own inner convictions when they denied the existence of heaven, that beautiful heaven where God Himself wanted to be their eternal reward. During those very joyful days of the Easter season, Jesus made me feel that there were really souls who have no faith, and who, through the abuse of grace, lost this precious treasure, the source of the only real and pure joys. He permitted my soul to be invaded by the thickest darkness, and that the thought of heaven, up until then so sweet to me, be no longer anything but the cause of struggle and torment. This trial was to last not a few days or a few weeks. It was not to be extinguished until the hour set by God Himself. And that hour has not yet come. I would like to be able to express what I feel, but alas, I believe this is impossible. One would have to travel through this dark tunnel to understand its darkness. I will try to explain it by a comparison. I imagine I was born in a country which is covered in thick fog. I never had the experience of contemplating the joyful appearance of nature flooded and transformed by the brilliance of the sun. It is true that from childhood I have heard people speak of these marvels, and I know the country in which I am living is not really my true fatherland, and there is another I must long for without ceasing. This is not simply a story invented by someone living in the sad country where I am, but it is a reality. For the King of the fatherland of the bright sun actually came and lived for 33 years in the land of darkness. Alas, the darkness did not understand that this divine King was the light of the world. What I am writing, dear mother, has no continuity. My little story, which resembled a fairy tale, is all of a sudden changed into a prayer, and I don't know what interest you could possibly have in reading all these confused and purely expressed ideas. Well, dear mother, I am not writing to produce a literary work, but only through obedience, and if I cause you any boredom, then at least you will see that your little child has given proof of her goodwill. I'm going to continue my little comparison where I left off. I was saying that the certainty of going away one day far from the sad and dark country had been given me from the day of my childhood. I did not believe this only because I heard it from persons much more knowledgeable than I, but I felt in the bottom of my heart real longings for this most beautiful country. Just as the genius of Christopher Columbus gave him a presentiment of a new world when nobody had even thought of such a thing, so also I felt that another land would one day serve me as a permanent dwelling place. Then, suddenly, the fog which surrounds me becomes more dense. It penetrates my soul and envelops it in such a way that it is impossible to discover within it the sweet image of my fatherland. Everything has disappeared. When I want to rest my heart fatigued by the darkness which surrounds it, by the memory of the luminous country after which I aspire, my torment redoubles. It seems to me that the darkness, borrowing the voice of sinners, says mockingly to me, "You are dreaming about the light, about a fatherland embalmed in the sweetest perfumes. You are dreaming about the eternal possession of the Creator of all these marvels, you believe that one day you will walk out of this fog which surrounds you. Advance, advance, rejoice in death, which will give you not what you hope for, but a night still more profound, the night of nothingness. That was St. Therese, Little Flower of Jesus. Conscientious Objector by Edna St. Vincent Millay. For you. I shall die, but that is all I shall do for death. I hear him leading his horse out of the stall. I hear the clatter on the barn floor. He is in haste. He has business in Cuba. Business in the Balkans. Many calls make this morning. But I will not hold the bridle while he cinches the girth. He may mount by himself, I will not give him a leg up. Though he flick my shoulders with his whip, I will not tell him which way the fox ran. With his hoof on my breast, I will not tell him where the black boy hides in the swamp. I shall die, but that is all that I shall do for death. I am not on his payroll. I will not tell him the whereabouts of my friends, nor of my enemies either. Though he promised me much, I will not map him the route to any man's door. Am I a spy in the land of the living, that I should deliver men to death? Brother, the password and the plans of our city are safe with me. Never through me shall you be overcome.
Just getting going on that one.
What?
It's just getting going on that one.
Should have done the second verse through. Oh. Came upon a book of poetry.
Who's it by?
Oh, Flowers of Evil by Charles Baudelaire. A hardcover. Just lying there.
Nice.
Keep it going.
Don't skip ahead.
I'm not.
Did you ever see any Indians?
Never saw any fucking Indians. Native Americans, rather.
No.
Yes, taking Charles's advice, I decided not to skip ahead to the juicy part. This is called To the Reader. Folly and error, sin and avarice lodge in our hearts and work upon our frames. And like the beggar Fattening his lice, we feed remorse and call it charming names. Our sins are tough, our penitence is faint. We ask fat payment for confession's load, and think our cheap tears will wash the taint. We gaily turn back to the muddy road. On evil's pillow, Satan Trismegistus lulls our enchanted soul with patient care. And all that all-too-learned alchemist, our will's metallic worth is blown to air. The devil holds our puppet threads. We find attraction in things horrible each day. Through noisome blackness, undeterred and blind, to hell we step, yet further on our way. Like the poor lecher kissing hungrily an antique wanton's persecuted breast, we steal a hidden pleasure as we fly, pressing it hard as orange rinds are pressed. Closed, seething tribes of demons in our brain, like millions of worms hold festival. And when we breathe death with dull signs of pain, to our lungs flows down invisible. Rape and venom, arson and the knife have not yet pricked their droll inventions out on the drab canvas of our pitiful life. Alas, it is our laggard souls that doubt. But in our base menagerie of vice, more than the jackals, panthers, bitches all, the vultures, apes, scorpions, and cockatrice, monsters that yelp and howl, grunt, crawl. There's one more cruel, loathsome, hideous yet, though he scarce moves, scarce utters his desire, is to see ruin where the earth was set, and swallow in one yawn the world entire. Ennui, look how dreaming a gallows dream, half tearfully he smokes his hookah through. You know this delicate monster, you who seem my twin, my double, canting reader, you. Let in the wind, let in the rain, let in the moors tonight. Storm beats on my window pane, night stands at my bed foot. Let in the fear, let in the pain, let in the trees that toss and groan. Let in the north tonight. Let in the nameless, formless power that beats upon my door. Let in the ice, let in the snow, the banshee howling on the moor. Bracken bush on the bleak hillside. Let in the dead tonight. Whistling ghost behind the dike, the dead that rot in mire. Let in the thronging ancestors, the unfulfilled desire. Let in the wraith of the dead earl. Let in the dead tonight. Let in the cold. Let in the wet. Let in the loneliness. Let in the quick. Let in the dead. Let in the unpeopled skies. Oh, how can virgin fingers weave a covering for the void? How can my fearful heart conceive gigantic solitude? How can a house so small contain a company so great? Let in the dark, let in the dead, let in your love tonight. Let in the snow that numbs the grave, let in the acorn tree, the mountain stream and mountain stone, let in the bitter sea. Fearful is my virgin heart, and frail my virgin form. And must I then take pity on the raging of the storm that rose up from the great abyss before the earth was made, that pours the stars in cataracts and shakes the violent world? Let in the fire, let in the power, let in the evading might. Gentle must my fingers be, and pitiful my heart, since I must bind in human form a living power so great, a living impulse great and wild that cries about my house with all the violence of desire, desiring this my peace. Pitiful my heart must hold the lonely stars at rest. Have pity on the raven's cry, the torrent and the eagle's wing, the icy water of the tarn, and on the biting blast. Let in the wound, let in the pain, let in your child tonight.
You guys have been listening to JJ Hayes and Mike Campbell. They're going to do 2 more pieces for you. I'm going to come around with a melon tip jar while they do the next piece. That's all they ask. Get paid here at Sidewalk. Here at Sidewalk, we don't believe in making you pay to walk through plastic flaps. No. We rely on my pushiness and your generosity to pay our artists. So please, there's a $5 suggested donation. Please get some money ready and put your hands together one more time for JJ Hayes and Mike Campbell.
Leaving the house, and Kathleen was like, you know, wearing these pants with the hole in it, it's going to reflect badly on me. And she made a reference to something from, what, 1967, 66? Go back a long way, Kathleen and I. And she said that, what was I trying to do? And she didn't know, but in fact, I didn't know I was either. She asked me, what are you trying to do? Look like King Robert of Sicily? She heard me in the 6th grade perform in this poem. I got to grow my hair long, which was a cool thing in 6th grade Catholic school. And I got to play King Robert of Sicily. King Robert of Sicily, brother of Pope Urbane and Valmond, Emperor of Alamein, apparelled in magnificent attire, with retinue of many a knight and squire, on St. John's Eve at Vespers proudly sat, and heard the priests chant the Magnificat. And as he listened o'er and o'er again, repeated like a burden or refrain, he caught the words, De pasuit potentes, de sede, et exaltavit humiles. And slowly lifting up his kingly head, he to a learned clerk beside him said, What mean these words? The clerk made answer meet. He has put down the mighty from their seat, and has exalted them of low degree. Thereat King Robert muttered scornfully, "'Tis well that such seditious words are sung only by priests and in the Latin tongue. For unto priests and people be it known, there is no power can push me from my throne." And leaning back he yawned and fell asleep, lulled by the chant monotonous and deep. When he awoke, it was already night. The church was empty, and there was no light, save where the lamps that glimmered few and faint lighted a little space before some saint. He started from his seat and gazed around, and saw no living thing and heard no sound. He groped towards the door, but it was locked. He cried aloud and listened, and then knocked, and uttered awful threatenings and complaints and imprecations upon men and saints. The sounds re-echoed from the roof and walls, as if dead priests were laughing in their stalls. At length the sexton, hearing from without the tumult of the knocking and the shout, and thinking thieves were in the house of prayer, came with his lantern, asking, "Who is there?" Half choked with rage, King Robert fiercely said, "Open, 'tis I, the king, art thou afraid?" The frightened sexton, muttering with a curse, "This is some drunken vagabond or worse," turned the great key and flung the portal wide. A man rushed by him at his single stride, haggard, half naked, without hat or cloak, who neither turned nor looked at him nor spoke, but leaped into the blackness of the night and vanished like a spectre from his sight. Robert of Sicily, brother of Pope Urbane, and Valmont, Emperor of Alamain, despoiled of his magnificent attire, bareheaded, breathless, and bespent with mire, with sense of wrong and outrage desperate, strode on and thundered at the palace gate, rushed through the courtyard, thrusting in his rage to right and left each seneschal and page, and hurried up the broad and sounding stair, his white face ghastly in the torch's glare. From hall to hall he passed with breathless speed. Voices and cries he heard, but did not heed, until at last he reached the banquet room, blazing with light and breathing with perfume. There on the dais sat another king, wearing his robes, his crown, his signet ring, King Robert's self in features, form, and height, but all transfigured with angelic light. It was an angel, and his presence there with a divine effulgence filled the air, an exaltation, piercing the disguise, though none the hidden angel recognized. A moment speechless, motionless, mazed, the throneless monarch on the angel gazed, who met his looks of anger and surprise with the divine compassion of his eyes. Then said, "Who art thou, and why comest thou here?" To which King Robert answered with a sneer, "I am the king and come to claim my own from an impostor who usurps my throne. And suddenly at these audacious words up sprang the angry guests and drew their swords. The angel answered with unruffled brow, "Nay, not the king, but the king's jester thou. Henceforth shalt thou the bells and scalloped cake, and for thy counselor shall lead an ape. Thou shalt obey my servants when they call, and wait upon my henchmen in the hall." Deaf to King Robert's threats and cries and prayers, they thrust him from the hall and down the stairs. A group of tittering pages ran before as they opened wide the folded door. His heart failed, for he heard with strange alarms the boisterous laughter of the men at arms, and all the vaulted chamber roar and ring with the mock plaudits of "Long live the King." Next morning, waking with the day's first gleam, he said within himself it was a dream, but the straw rustled as he turned his head. There were the cap and bells beside his head. Around him rose the bare, discolored walls. Close by the steeds were champing in their stalls, and in the corner, a revolting shape, shivering and shattering, sat the wretched ape. It was no dream, the world he loved so much had turned to dust and ashes at his touch. Days came and went, and now returned again to Sicily, the old Saturnian reign. Under the angels' governance benign, the happy island danced with corn and wine. Deep within the mountain's burning breast, Enceladus the giant was at rest. Meanwhile, King Robert yielded to his fate, sullen and silent and disconsolate, dressed in the motley garb that jesters wear, with looks bewildered and a vacant stare, close shaven above the ears as monks are shorn, by courtiers mocked, by pages laughed to scorn. His only friend the ape, his only food when others left, he was still unsubdued, and when the angel met him on his way, and half in earnest, half in jest would say, sternly though tenderly, that he might feel the velvet scabbard held a sword of steel, "Art thou the king?" The passion of his woe burst from him resistless, overflow, and lifting high his forehead, he would fling the haughty answer back, I am the king." Almost 3 years were ended, when there came ambassadors of great repute and name from Valmond, Emperor of Alamain, unto King Robert, saying that Pope Urbain by letters summoned them forthwith to come on Holy Thursday to his city of Rome. The angel with great joy received his guests, and gave them presents of embroidered vests, and velvet mantles with rich ermine lined, and rings and jewels of the rarest kind. Then he departed with them o'er the sea into the lovely land of Italy, whose loveliness was more resplendent made by the mere passing of that cavalcade, with plumes and cloaks and housings and the stir of jeweled bridle and of golden spur. And lo, among the menials in mock state, upon a piebald steed with shambling gait, his cloak of foxtails flapping in the wind, the solemn ape demurely perched behind, King Robert rode, making huge merriment in all the country towns through which they went. The Pope received them with great pomp and blare of bannered trumpets on St. Peter's Square, giving his benediction and embrace, fervent and full of apostolic grace, while with congratulations and with prayers he entertained the angel unawares. Robert the jester, bursting through the crowd, into their presence rushed and cried aloud, I am the king. Look and behold in me, Robert, your brother, king of Sicily. This man who wears my semblance to your eyes is an impostor in a king's disguise. Do you not know me? There's no voice within answer my cry and say we are a king. The Pope in silence, but with troubled mien, gazed at the angel's countenance serene. The emperor laughing said, "It is strange sport to keep a madman for thy fool at court." And the poor, baffled jester, in disgrace, was hustled back among the populace. In solemn state the Holy Week went by, and Easter Sunday gleamed upon the sky. The presence of the angel with its light, before the sun rose, made the city bright. And with new fervor filled the hearts of men, who felt that Christ indeed had risen again. Even the jester, on his bed of straw, with haggard eyes the unwonted splendor saw. He felt within a power unfelt before, and kneeling humbly on the chamber floor, he heard the rushing garments of the Lord sweep through the silent air, ascending heavenward. And now the visit ending, and once more Valmont returning to the Danube shore. Homeward the angel journeyed, and again the land was made resplendent with his train, flashing along the towns of Italy unto Salerno, and from there by sea. And when once more within Palermo's walls, and seated on the throne in his great hall, he heard the Angelus from convent towers, as if the better world conversed with ours. He beckoned to King Robert to draw nigher, and with a gesture bade the rest retire. And when they were alone, the angel said, "Art thou the king?" Then bowing down his head, King Robert crossed both hands upon his breast, and meekly answered him, "Thou knowest best. My sins a scholar are. Let me go hence, and in some cloister's school of penitence, across those stones that pave the way to heaven, walk barefoot till my guilty soul is shriven." The angel smiled, and from his radiant face a holy light illumined all the place. And through the open window, loud and clear, they heard the monks chant in the chapel kneel. Above the stir and tumult of the street, he has put down the mighty from their seat, and has exalted them of low degree. And through the chant a second melody rose like the throbbing of a single string. I am an angel, and thou art the king. King Robert, who was standing near the throne, lifted his eyes, and lo, he was alone, but all apparelled as in days of old, the ermine mantle, cloth of gold. And when his courtiers came, they found him there, kneeling upon the floor, absorbed in silent prayer. Next week is audience submissions, which anybody has anything to submit,